So today I'm making a taco salad, which is a little more non-traditional than what I usually have. I have my own spin on it. So I'm using a cast iron pot. Again, I'm using the convection stovetop, which doesn't use just any pot or pan. So the cast iron is another one that works on it as well. And so I started off with one onion as well as one pimento and half of a Scotch bonnet pepper. So on the stovetop, I put about 2 tablespoons of oil to heat, and I chopped up the onions as well as the half of the Scotch bonnet pepper and the pimento. And after the oil gets hot, then I put the chopped onions, into the cast iron pot. So what I do is I cook down the onions a little bit until they're golden brown, and then after that I put about 1 tablespoon of chopped garlic. If you remember from my video before, I'd mentioned that I usually buy things like garlic or ginger pre-chopped, so a tablespoon of that goes in there. However, the next thing to note is when putting garlic into any pan or into any hot pan, it's not a good idea to overcook it too much just because it can turn bitter. So I didn't cook it too much. I just gave it a quick toss, and then right after I put 2 packages of lean ground beef and pork. The reason I chose lean ground beef and pork is because lean ground beef on its own tends to be very dry. But then I find that regular beef tends to be too oily. So I get the mix of the ground beef and pork, and that tends to work really well. So I actually put 2 packages. That's just one, but I ended up using 2 in the end. And so I put it to brown. So if you look here, you'll see that it has quite a bit of moisture. But what I do is I cook it down until a lot of the moisture is gone, if not all of it, at the end. So after all the moisture has been evaporated, I put 1 package of taco seasoning. And then mix that a little bit. As you can see, the ground beef and pork has become a little more dry now, which is what I was looking for. And then after that, I put about 1 tablespoon of all-purpose seasoning. A tablespoon usually is just enough, just because with the taco seasoning as well as Scotch bonnet pepper and the pimento pepper, it tends to be a lot of spice in there. So just 1 tablespoon is more than enough for 2 packages of ground meat. After that, I add half the Scotch bonnet pepper as well as the pimento that have been chopped up, and then I cook that. I toss that around for a little bit. So after that, I add 1 can of whole kernel corn. Now, before adding it, what I do is I tend to rinse it pretty well because I find that the brine tends to give the food a little bit of too much of a corn taste, which I don't like. So I actually rinsed it in the can first before throwing it into the pot, as well as a can of black beans. Same thing I do with the black beans that I did with the corn, where I also rinsed it really well before putting it into the pot. And then after I mix that around, and that's pretty much the end of the ground meat. So then comes the dressing that I use for the taco salad. So I use about a tablespoon of, well, it says it's salsa. It's actually hot salsa, which, being of Caribbean background, I didn't think it was that hot, if hot at all. But anyways, I use a tablespoon of salsa, a tablespoon of blue cheese dressing, as well as a tablespoon of 5% sour cream. Now, the reason I chose blue cheese dressing is because the tanginess of the blue cheese tends to complement the salsa as well as the sour cream. You can use whatever dressing you like. Also, the reason why I mix the 3 is because the salsa tends to be a little bit of a healthier alternative. So when you add that to the dressing, it's not as many calories. And then I also choose 5% sour cream as opposed to 14%. So then after that, I chop up some lettuce. So I usually get the romaine lettuce hearts. They come in bags of three. I actually forgot to take a picture of what it looks like, but it usually comes in bags of three. It's a lot less mess to chop up as well as compared to if you were to buy a whole head of romaine lettuce. And then also you have the choice of buying the pre-cut, pre-washed ones as well. And then in the end, what I do is I add together the ground beef, the lettuce, and then also I took one green onion and I chopped that up, threw that on there. I took about 5 olives, cut them up, threw it all there, as well as maybe quarter cup of cheddar cheese. I'm the kind of person who I am not a fan of cold salads. So the reason I like this is because the ground beef is warm when I make it. Also, when I have leftovers, what I do is I warm up the ground beef mixture before I add it to the lettuce. That's just me. Other people are different. Uh, but there we go. It's taco salad. So today I'm making a taco salad.